Thanks for joining us. Looks like we've got a few more people to come in, so we'll just wait another couple of minutes and we'll kick off at about 7:05.
It's always a weird little period waiting for that, the stragglers to come. But no good starting and stopping again, guys. So just bear with us.
I will start by just saying that for consent purposes, as we are recording this session tonight, your cameras have been turned off. Your mics, I believe, are off to begin with, but throughout the session you can turn those on if you wish to have a chat and discuss. So please feel free to do that. Otherwise, we've also got the chat function, which myself and Georgia will be monitoring. So feel free to pop anything in there as well.
And look, I'll be encouraging a bit of interaction too, because Death by PowerPoint isn't much fun. So if I can try and not make it Death by PowerPoint, that would be my ambition in life, and I would close this session a very happy person. So the more you get from it and the more you can put in, I think that we can make it more to your context. So I might pick on you a little bit, but yeah, please don't feel picked on. If you can contribute, I'd love that.
Oh, we might still have a few people coming in, but we may as well get started. So thank you for joining us tonight for this emergency preparedness webinar. So part one of two parts. I'll give you the details for part two at the end of tonight's session. But for those that don't know me, my name's Claire Hockey. I'm the Recreation Participation Officer here at Manningham. We've got Georgia Ryan here as well from Manningham. George is our engagement officer in the emergency management team. And we've got John here from Resilient Services, and John is the managing director there. And John is the expert for tonight, who will be taking us through taking you through this webinar on emergency management and emergency preparedness. So over to you, John.
Yeah, thanks, Claire, and hi, everyone. Look, I just did say, I don't know if anyone else has just joined in the last couple of minutes, but I hate Death by PowerPoint, all right? So it can be that, but look, I think what we'll try to do is to make it as interactive as possible. So yeah, we'll just go through it very quickly. I won't get the slide to move. But the very first thing is acknowledgement of country. We've done a lot of work up in the Torres Strait Islands and remote areas, and also locally with the Wurundjeri people. I think, sometimes we read a little statement and we do whatever. Don't underestimate just showing a little bit of respect, what it does. And I actually was up in the Torres Strait Islands with a group of Torres Strait Islanders doing acknowledgement for country. And I said to them, do you want me to do that? And they've gone, you want to? Did it. And I felt like I was about that big. Next time, I did exactly the same thing. They did exactly the same thing. And I just felt like the world's biggest idiot. At the end of it, one of the elders come up. He said, look, we know you had to do it the first time. You thought you might have to do the second time, but you're all right now. So when I go in for acknowledgement of country, they actually say, no, you're all right. Don't worry about it. So we have a good laugh about what they did to me. But I think that, just showing a little bit of respect. So if we've got any of our Indigenous folks joining us today, and any of the leaders and elders, past, present, emerging, welcome along, because it's good to see you here. We actually had this commissioned by an artist, and it was pretty goddamn good. So we have a bit of a story to tell. Look, introductions, and what I will do, because I'm going to pick on you all, is that I'll just very quickly give you my heads up about who I am and what I do. And then I'll do a bit of a quick whiz around the room so I can get a bit of a reference point of who the various clubs are, and organisations that are represented today. So look, I'm the Managing Director of Resilient Services. We do risk and disaster management. So a couple of things you'd be aware of what we've done. We did the reviews for the Victorian and New South Wales floods. All of our stuff ended up in a parliamentary inquiry in Victoria. We've also done work for the Victorian and South Australian premiers. I did not do COVID, so just make that very clear. Did not do COVID. We also work in critical infrastructure, mining, energy, airports. Abu Dhabi Airport was one of them, just a small one. We're also working with Western Sydney Airport as it's getting built now to put their processes and procedures in. But when you look at all that stuff, it's all very similar. They've got a bunch of risks and they've got to keep people safe. And if you can avoid the risk, it's really good. And you've got to have something practical that people that don't do it for their day job can pick it up and run with it, right? So I'll try to make this as practical as possible, because I know that many of you would have been called into sessions in your day job where they said, we're going to talk about risk. And your eyes would just glaze over and just go, oh my God, get me out of here, right? I don't want to do that to you today, because it'll make it relevant to you guys. So if I could, and I'll start with Bailey. Can you just give us a quick intro, Bailey, and just tell us who you are and what club you're representing?
Alrighty, so yeah, I'm from the cricket club and I'm the secretary.
Good. Which club, Bailey?
Cricket club, Warrandyte Cricket Club. Sorry.
Oh, Warrandyte. Yep. No,
Yep.
not too much to worry about in terms of disasters in that way, is there?
Not yet.
Hopefully it stays that way.
way.
Jimmy, I see you're also too from down that neck of the woods.
Yep, I'm the president of the netball club, so same place as the cricket club.
Yeah, good. I've actually went down and watched a game there this year. So beautiful spot. But also too, I did notice there was a couple of hazards there that were quite interesting. So Rob?
Yes, I'm from the Rotary Club of Manningham City, and I'm the director of services projects, where we have the family festival once a year, and then we have some monthly these things for the discourse for physically challenged people and so on. So that's why I'm here, interested to see.
Yeah, festivals are very interesting because you've got people coming and going and so forth. Yeah, there's a bit there.
Yes.
Welcome aboard. David McLean.
Yes, I'm from the Blind Hillside Career Club. I'm the president.
Yeah, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Michael, I've got Michael unverified, so I don't know who that might be, but we'll go with Michael to start with. I think there's only one.
I'm Michael Kilpatrick from Doncaster Aero Modelers. I tried to type my full name into the available number of characters and it wouldn't fit. So I'm just Michael. I'm on the committee, just an ordinary committee member. And yeah, we were asked if anyone would be interested in doing this. So a couple of us said we would.
Tell you what, that's a real cracker, isn't it? Because you've got people outside doing stuff.
Yes.
Etc. That's interesting. It's a different perspective altogether, isn't it?
Yeah, look, we have some risks that probably other people wouldn't have, from batteries catching fire to models crashing outside our flying area. So yeah, this is something that we're interested in.
Yeah, no, welcome aboard, Michael. I'm glad you could make it. Phil? I might come back to Phil.
Sorry, is that
Phil, you there?
Asking?
Sorry, mate, I spoke over the top of you. Want to go again?
Phil Treby, president of the Warrandyte Sporting Group.
What's
the sporting group? See the four clubs senior and junior football, cricket club and netball club as a facilities management group. And our major event run by the sporting group is Run Warrandyte in March. 700 to 800 participants.
Funnily enough, last Sunday I emceed the Run for the Fireys in Eltham.
Looks like you're a candidate for ours.
I don't have to do it at the moment, but yeah, look, we can chat about that in a couple of weeks. Phil, how's that sound?
Yeah, good, terrific, thank you.
Yeah, welcome aboard, Stav.
Hi, John. I'm Stav Vathias. I'm representing Bulleen Boomers Basketball Club. I'm the club secretary.
Oh, so you got a different perspective as well. You got basically a professional team, isn't it?
We're a domestic club. We do have a senior competition.
Yep.
And yeah, a lot of junior, a large junior comp too. So, and junior champ. So lots of different levels. Yes.
Yeah, goodness me, you'd be busy.
Busy.
Yeah,
it's growing. It's really great. Great time to be.
I just think this is getting a real varying perspective. It's very interesting. Thanks, Stav. Lynn?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lynn Kruger. I know a lot of names on this meeting tonight. I'm on the Warrandyte Netball Club committee. I have a couple of roles that I do, but I have touch points into all of our sporting groups in the Warrandyte Sporting Club, with a daughter that plays netball and a son that plays both junior and a bit of senior footy and cricket with Bailey often. So yeah, I've got lots of touch points into Warrandyte sporting clubs.
I reckon that footy ground, that whole area is just magic, beautiful. Yeah. Really, really lovely backdrop.
Yeah, we're lucky.
You are. Murray.
Yes, Murray Sadler, committee member from Doncaster Aero Modelling Club, along with Michael. And yeah, we've got a lot of what's in the template we do already. So we're interested to see what we can get out of this to make it better.
Oh, yeah, cool. Well, thanks, Murray, and thanks for coming along. Rachel?
Yes, hi, everyone. I'm from the Warrandyte Cricket Club, and I'm on the committee, and I have a couple of roles there, welfare and wellbeing, and also the child safety officer.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, you're picking up a couple of the risks all in your little portfolio, aren't you?
Yeah, yep.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Rachel, and lovely to have you here. Katie? Right, okay. We'll go to the WPCC secretary. That's all I know you as. Might have dropped out for a cup of tea. Look, just guys, that's really interesting. If you have a look at the different people that are in here, you're going to have some real common risks, but you're going to have some stuff that is quite unique. Like the Aero Modelling Club, it will have different risks to what the netball club will have. So one of the really important things around this is to get context. I've been on swimming club committees and also football club committees, and there's a number of things, and it's usually the people issues that keep you busy, really. The sports teams and people doing what they do is easy. It's the complexities of people. They can be quite trying at times. So we will go through that. So look, for today, really, some of you, and it sounds like that, that Murray has got a fair, and Phil have got a fair idea of what their emergency stuff, and that's great. And maybe they can pick up some stuff. Other people be coming back from a long way, whereas we haven't really done too much, or have just an evacuation plan. May not have that, but look, whatever we can pick up is really good. I think people often forget the before an emergency and what to do. We'll go through that. There's some things we need to do before, and sometimes that a little bit like there's all sorts of wonderful surgeries and things we can have, but you can actually avoid that and keep well. It's a whole lot better than the cure. So we'll talk about when we really need to start thinking about maybe postponing things or getting people some notice to do it, but also too what to do during an emergency and then what to do after it's all occurred. Also too, let's look and part of the before, we'll be thinking about how you communicate to people. One of the things that sort of gets lost a little bit with sports clubs is that you're community hubs. So you've got a group of folks that'll hang out together because you choose to, right? They're your friends. They're not folks that are foreign to you. Some people are, come and go. A lot of people are there for a long time. So we've got to look after each other. They're pseudo family they become, right? So what I want to do is also to get you familiar with this emergency management template. Just in here, this is the Wimmera Golf Club, right? And we're going back to Black Saturday, and the Wimmera Golf Club basically burnt to the ground, and all the grounds did, all the rest of it, etc. Now, with that on the particular day, it was 46 degrees, and it was absolutely howling a gale. They had golfers out on the course. The course was still open. So if you think about that, is that you would have also too had juniors. You would have had people that are maybe a little bit vulnerable. You have some people that, as Stab said, we've got all sorts of people coming and going. But in golfing, there could be people that can't really walk that well and can get off on and off a cart and basically have a shot, get back in. And you're also going to have juniors that were dropped off at the front gate. Now, the big issue there, nobody died, which is miraculous, but it wasn't through any good planning, right? So what they actually did was that they didn't really heed the notice that you've got. Now, for you guys that are down in Warrandyte, there seems to be a lot of you, and I think that you've probably been beaten to death on Warrandyte and the risks that it pertains. But the former, actually a professor, a Canadian professor, who said the most dangerous place you can be in a bushfire is on the north side of the Yarra River on the Warrandyte Kangaroo Ground Road in the world. Not in Australia, not in Victoria, in the world. And they've recently duplicated the lanes. But if you think about it, the fire's coming. You've got basically go left or right. Both of them are going to be in the firing line. So if you leave too late or you leave too early, or leave too late rather, you can find yourself in trouble. Now, with all of you that are based in Warrandyte, is that while that we've got the ability to do all sorts of things, but as a club, we can probably let people know a few facts like that. I know council spend a lot of money and put a lot of effort into doing fire awareness. And I do know about 10 years ago they did one at Warrandyte, and about 4 people turned up. So not a lot of people know. But one of the things you can do if it's an acute fire danger day is to let your people know that we're not playing sport that day, or it's likely to be cancelled 2 or 3 days out in advance, and let them know too that, hang on, you may need to reference something else to keep you and your family safe. Now, it's really, really important that people understand that. Now, in the case of Wimmera Golf Club, they're probably, kids would have ridden bikes, probably dropped off by their dads out the front gate. I'm sure, with all the different junior teams that we've got also in here, a lot of people use sports clubs as a babysitting service. Drop them off, run off, do whatever they want to do. We all know those parents. They're usually the ones that whinge a lot too, by the way. But again, is that you're better off to cancel. So I think there is to communicate and communicate and communicate is the 3 most important things in emergency management. Wimmera Golf Club was very lucky they didn't kill anyone. Now, I'd imagine even if they had a check-in system, for them to verify who was on the grounds at the time would have been impossible. So probably for a week, they'd be checking out to see if their members are safe and alive. So just have a think about it. You've got an acute fire danger day, and you're smack bang in the middle of it. And Murray and Phil, sending people out into the bush. I know your planes there. You can have ignition points. We can have all that sort of stuff. But it's really about how do you keep people safe and people that you care about. Now, I just think it's good management. What I will do is just switch to this one, which is, get the right one. My goodness, hang on. Now I've managed to close it. That's not very clever. Just give me a minute and I'll do that. I'm just going to put the template up on the screen. And what we'll do is just really quickly go through that. Is this making sense to everyone so far?
Yep.
Yep, we're cool.
Yep.
All right. I'll remember saying the other thing I do too is often if I do this, let me know, is I start talking about documents I haven't shared already. So middle-aged man technology can go real bad. But look, what we want to do is get to a point where that you can be confident to fill this thing in. And we do have a follow-up in 2 weeks. So what I'd suggest is that you look at having a go at it and bringing it on the invite. I'm pretty sure my email address is there. Is it, Claire?
Possibly. If not, and if you want that to be shared, we can certainly do that.
I think do that because, look, if you don't got any questions, just give us a hoy. Just drop us an email. I'm happy to answer them. The other way is just print it off, even if you handwrite on it and so forth, is what we want to do is get something. As I said, one of the big problems of emergency management. Now, look, if we look at this, the contents page is already looking complicated, right? What we don't want to have is what we want to really get to at the end of it is that somebody who's there at the club can pick up, certain bits and know what to do, right? That's all we want to do. So it's got some fancy names, got introduction that'll talk to you about, basically just filling it in and getting ready. Please really have a think about hazards. In 2 weeks' time, we go around. There's a number of hazards, and I think it was Katie, pretty sure, I'll just make double sure, who was looking at, it wasn't Katie, it was Rachel, wasn't it? Yeah, Rachel, who mentioned that, they're doing things about child safety, etc. You've got a number of risks. These aren't just bushfires. They're not just floods. We've also, too, got to think about the code of conduct of your organisation. Alcohol and drugs is a big deal. Domestic violence is also a big deal. Violence is a big deal. I think that although they're things that don't happen regularly, you've got to set the scene very early on to let people know that you serve alcohol if you're serving it in a particular way, and if people get a bit rowdy or they get whatever, that they're asked to leave, right? People got to know that stuff up front. There was that terrible situation with the young Batty boy down in the Mornington Peninsula, and his mum, was left basically with a father who's turned up to cricket training and decided to square up. Now, in a month of whatever, we could never imagine that happening, but I think we need to look at what are the risks around our club, right? So we can think about bushfires. You've also got a number of people and you've got interaction. So one of the things I'd really strongly suggest, if you haven't got it already, is get a code of conduct. This is how we behave here, right? This is what we do. I think that if you've got one, revisit it, because what we want to make sure is that people can point to something to say, if you want to be a member of this organisation, then this is how you behave. People are misbehaving, you can say, hey, listen, unless you realign your behaviour, you are no longer a member of this club. And it makes it very, very simple. But look, we'll go through that probably next week. There's a number of things to think about. What we really want to look at is that it's just here just to make sure you got the right version. It sounds a whole lot, but that's what the summary of the changes are that you've made. Basically, we've got to overlook it every so often. Make sure that it's all right. share it with people. Make sure people know where it is. So who needs a copy of it? And it could be just a little action plan that we ideally could just print off and put in there in the event of this, do whatever, right? And basically, who's going to upkeep it? Now, one of the things that does happen is that plans can get a bit old, and it'll have things in there. It'll have, and you might have maps for evacuation, whether you build a new building or you knock that door off or whatever. But also to just really have a look at it, just to go through it. You can do it monthly, quarterly, whatever, but just make sure those periodic changes are made. Club, and put down where that you will be, what the activities are, what the regular schedule is, how many people will be there, how many miners will be on site, and basically where your venues are. I know back when I was at Eltham Swimming Club, when I was vice president there, that we had, really had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different pools the kids swam at for availability. So we had to think about where they were, what the hazards were, and so forth. Put a map in, and I think there again, emergency assembly points. Now, one of the things is that in there, if you look at bushfires, for instance, I was talking to a CFA educator on Monday who informs me more people die in house fires than what die in bushfires, even in the year of Black Saturday. So people will die in fires. So really get people to have a look at what your points are, and then you can do it for a bit of fun. You can do it with the kids. We're going to do an evacuation. What you don't want to do if there's a fire or something's going on, that people don't know where to go, or you don't know where to look for people. Just go back to that issue you had up at Wimmera. Okay, look, there was probably warning signs that didn't need to be there, but how can we make sure that everyone knows where to go? Also, to making sure there's room for emergency vehicles, parking areas. Just having, if you've got a defibrillator on site, where the utilities and services are, and also to look at hazards. If I know nowadays you don't use lime and stuff to mark grounds, you use paint. But even still, there's still a degree of some stuff that could be hazardous. Make sure they're actually marked. I'm not saying you need a HazChem sign, but you may well do to let the fire brigade know what you've got there. And put your map in. Just your contacts. Now, Claire, I'll put you on the spot here. Basically, part of the deal is that if there is an incident or whatever, we're to ring Manningham. Is that correct as a club?
Hello. Yes. So we've got the Manningham details there. Yes.
So,
and then there is also a option on our website where if it's an issue with a building, for example, they can put through a request as well. Yes. But I guess in the instance of an emergency that requires emergency services, call them before calling us.
Yeah. But look, really, when we get to point 5, we're now getting into the doing document. This is who you need to call. This is who you need to notify. All the rest of it was talking about the administration, really, of the plan. So if there's something happening, we'll go there. Where are you going to find emergency information? We will go through that a bit later. I don't know if any of you people are weather nerds like I am, but what the bomb did with the radar over the weekend was terrible. I was having a look at that on last Wednesday, and they've taken out basically how we used to use it was that you could see the storms coming across Victoria, and you could work out when the peak of it was coming from the wind speeds and the rain. And they've removed all that detail. So there's been a bit of hoo-ha on the news about it. I think one of the ministers had actually met with the bomb to ask them to put it back how it was. So they've updated that. But also too, there's websites and so forth. We'll go through that. But really, risk assessments, now, they sound like a real drama. And what we will do when we walk around in 2 weeks' time we'll have just a bit of a chat about what the potential hazards are and what the consequences might be, right? So the very best thing you can do with a hazard is to, or a risk, is to make sure that you can isolate it and it doesn't happen, right? We'll go about how to do that. It could be barriers, it could be a new technology, it could be wearing PPE for safe handling, it could just be locking the door, right? So there's a whole lot of things to do. Have a look about what you need to put in place and so forth. And even if we talk about safe food handling, fire in kitchens, having fire blankets, having your fire extinguishers in date and in working order, just those sort of things. So we'll go through all of that. All right. We'll go for a risk assessment. I'll do that next week or this week. But
John,
basically, if something's
the comments that are on the side of the slide, are they this evening's or previous sessions?
Oh, sorry, that's something that I should have got rid of. So just ignore that. Thanks, Phil. Yeah, but basically, we'll do a risk assessment, and the more likely it is. So what we do is you multiply step 1 by step 2. So if it's something that's almost certain it's going to happen, and I think that if we look at that down at Warrandyte, if you look at it that it's almost certain you'll get an acute fire danger day down there. And if it did happen, there could be major harm or damage. That should guide you as to what your top priorities are. Whereas it might be that, plain going into your facility is probably less than rare, right? So really work out what the most likely and what the biggest consequences are, and then treat it there.
Interrupt once again, sorry. In very recent times, a fortnight ago, the schools were relocated based on an education department risk assessment, which was of a higher level. I think the council participated. Claire, you can probably answer this in terms of facilitating those school closures. And I'm just, I guess, jumping ahead, wondering which assessment we will be basing our actions on.
Yeah, I think, Phil, it's a great question. I don't know about the specifics of the instance that you're talking about. Really, it's got to come back to you and your members. We do talk about what we call a risk appetite. There's going to be sometimes by law that you're not going to be able to do certain things, which may be, relevant to the Aero Club, right? Where by law you might be able to have, something that's likely to have a spark in a paddock on an acute fire danger day. But it could be, look, if you look at, say, last Wednesday, we had 130-kilometre winds forecasts. They didn't happen, right? So if you had a lower risk appetite as a club and as an organisation, this is where you need to share this stuff, is that you might sort of say, probably not very wise. Let's wait to see what the day says. But if you've got a lower and probably a smarter risk tolerance and appetite, you'd be saying, hey, listen, let's close for Wednesday based on the forecast. So it's really, in a big way, is there's going to be times where that authorities like Manningham will step in and request that you stop operations or close the area just not safe. But look, I wouldn't be waiting for that, Phil. But I think it's really a conversation. This is part of it. And this is why the committees need to put this stuff down, get it in writing, and socialise it with your committee. What we're going to do, we've got our biggest aero comp on or show. We've got people coming from all around Australia. We've got an acute fire danger day. What do we do, right? And I think that you need to have that conversation based on your risk appetite. But also to a bit of common sense, because look, the other part of it is, as a committee and as people making these decisions, unfortunately, we tend to find ourselves on committees because we're interested in netball or we're interested in basketball, aero, cricket, whatever it might be, is that there also comes a responsibility to be saying, hang on, you had some warnings. Why didn't you stop this? Because the last thing you want is a Wimmera situation, right? And that is extreme. It's acute. And you can probably say they're a little bit, naive to not close for the day. But I bet that they never had a conversation around when do we operate and when do we not. So, and that's really, it's up to the clubs, but also there. And what we'll do is we'll list those particular things. And this could just be something that you just hang up in your, in a notice board. These are the things. Here's the actions that we've got, right? For a storm, it's almost certain there's major consequences, risk levels high, monitor weather, and if it gets to a certain point, we will cancel outdoor activity or monitor via the gap. It can be that simple, right? But I think one of the things is really important, and Phil bringing up that point is really, really important. It's really up to you guys how much risk you're willing to take, and really in your context, because and it could be that, and Stav, I don't know if this is wrong or right, in your situation, it could be that, if people can get in and out of your place there, you've got to think about them driving to and from. You want to keep them safe. But, a severe weather warning may not have quite the consequence that it does elsewhere. So it really comes up to you.
It's interesting you mentioned last week with the winds, because there was a lot of conversation on the day about, do we cancel games? And on the basis that, is it unsafe for people to travel here? What do you do? The winds never came. There weren't any major warnings in the area, but I like how you've said it's worth having the conversation ahead of time. And so when the incident arises, we're quick on the decisions.
And that's it, because you'll probably get two schools of thought there, Stav. And I think that, people might say, why on earth did you cancel it? Or why on earth didn't you? Right? But if you've got a reference point where you can say, as a committee, we agreed this was the way we were doing stuff, right? Have that all in there, and then the club can speak as one, right? Because I know that, how'd you say, there's not too many people who ultimately take responsibility. And you're talking about big clubs, like Bulleen Boomers is a big club. But if it's written down that this is what we do, and you speak to the association to say, hey, it's 3 days out, we're seeing this day, what do we do with our things there? You can probably come to some arrangement. It might be it's a walkover. It could be it's just seen as a draw. It could be that they're rescheduled. But you need to do these things early too, because what you can't have, Stav, is that we decide on the day that we're going to cancel, right? So your competition's all up there. The opposing teams don't know that you've cancelled. Your team members don't know that you've cancelled. And people are on the road, so they've more or less had the hazard anyway. So I think it's really important to have a bit of a socialise it with your, committee members, and particularly around Warrandyte. I think that, there's you guys have probably forgotten more about bushfires than I'll know. Yeah, and Liz, it's working. And Lynn's working rather. But look, I think just have that chat. So look, and we will, and really brainstorm these sort of things that that come about. I think the other thing, yes, sure.
I guess maybe a question for Claire, but in terms, let's say we're approaching Run Warrandyte, situation changes overnight. We've got up to 800 people we need to contact, tell them not to come into area. Claire, has the council got any in with the ABC, 3AW or so on for emergency announcements to help us counsel and defer people?
I'm actually going to throw that to Georgia. I'm hoping that Georgia knows a little bit more about that.
Yeah, you can throw that to me.
Great.
So the question that you had is, do we have access to media channels to ask people not to attend the area?
Yeah.
If it was based on a response to an emergency, yes. But if it was based on a risk, I am not sure that we would. I think that
because people will just come.
yeah.
And that they will. Maybe I can help, Phil.
Yep.
What we really want to look at too is that you do get preloaded emails, texts, whatever you like. You can do a bulk text. From there's a whole lot of applications that allow you to do bulk tests like WhatsApp, etc.
Yep.
And you can look after your people. And if you've got for clubs that and you might have days where you have different aero clubs come, and then also to let the other clubs know that people are coming. You might want to update your website. But look, I think in effect that most of these things you will get a little bit of a warning to. Some you won't, right? But when you've got warning, do that. But if you can have that all loaded up, then you can say, this is our Saturday comp group, this is our Friday, this is our whatever, this is our juniors. Have them all loaded up into one group. Have it ready to go to say, that for last Wednesday, it could have been that, by Sunday, you just start sending information. By Tuesday, make a call, right? Facebook pages, whatever you use to communicate with your members, but have a predetermined way. And it is something in here of how to do that. But look, what I might do, we've got all the different things to do. I want to not go through that in complete detail. So I'll go back to here to just go through the presentation of where we're going to get all the information. But I thought it was important to get some idea of what the what it is about the template. All right, so we've seen those guys. One of the things we'll talk about is that I get into I'm at Diamond Creek, so I'm on the other side of the Yarra. When I go into a local bowls club, I'm not a bowler, by the way, but it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. Go down for a couple of drinks on a Friday night. They did a club draw. And one of the things that you've got to realise is that you're also local leaders of the community, right? In New Zealand, they tell people do not expect to see an emergency service person for 72 hours. Right? In Australia, and I think it's due to political parts and all of that sort of stuff, and political pressures, you will not see someone for 72 hours. So you've got to be really self-sufficient. A lot of you people are dealing with some vulnerable folk. And there's a group of people who go down to the bowls club every Friday, go for the members draw. They have a drink, but we can check in to see that those people are okay, right? So you've got that group. You've also got you've got young kids, you've got whatever. But really, part of your role is this thing called community resilience, right? So if you talk to Emergency Management Victoria, what they really want is for the communities to become their own resilience hubs. And I think that's where that you guys can, like it or not, can really show a leadership role. So particularly too, when we talked about hazards and we talked about things, is that a little text message might be to say, hey, there's going to be bad storms Wednesday, or there's going to be this, there's going to be that. Is letting people know and maybe giving them some safety advice, advise not to, just get straight off the bomb, or it could be from Emergency Management Victoria. You might want to link what they've said. It's just get them give them a little bit of information. But again, I think it's really important that what we do is that we make those decisions up front, as I spoke about before, that everyone's on the same book, on the same, reading the same book. So I guess really is that if you look at it, you are part of that Manningham community, and it really is. And I think that where that a Black Saturday story for you. One of my good mates was at Flowerdale, and he was a week before that he saw any emergency services on Black Saturday. All of his neighbours were lost, right? So it can be pretty hairy. So you're a whole lot better to get out of the way. So when we look at the whole thing about community resilience, one of the things that's to do is to try to avoid that stuff. right? I speak to Neil, my mate, and he said, if I knew what it was going to be like, I would never have stayed, right? Would never have stayed there. It was horrendous, right? But that could also too be part of the conversation around your clubs, and also too, you're going to get information perhaps from Manningham. You're going to get emergency services. There's all things that we can do, but I think one of the best things you can do is look after players, volunteers, and visitors. And really, I think preventing incidents is really important. Now, whether that be a weather event like Black Saturday was, or whether it be social drinking or violence, crimes against others, whatever, is to really think about what sort of club you want to be and what are the triggers for things that you might act upon. But I think that one of the things too is that, with the netball clubs and so forth, and Lynn and Stav, you're looked upon as leaders in the community. The coaches are seen as being leaders. Little kids listen to what you're saying. But I think there that you really want to make sure that even in that last week, that was horrendous. What they said was going to happen. It's weird how we end up a little bit disappointed it didn't happen, but it's great, right? And we've got a bit of a saying, and Georgia will back me up on this one. Emergency management motto is prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Under that situation, I would have cancelled everything well in advance. But I think that, again, in your license agreement, there's also there's basically you need to have some way to manage your risks. And the best way to manage your risk is to know what it is. But I think then talk about what is it that your club can manage, and what is it that you can't, and then have a bit of a think about what the responses might be. So that way then, in Stav's situation, should we cancel, should we not? It's probably something we can chat about down the track, and we can workshop that next week if you want to. We can put up some scenarios. Is this an idea to cancel, or should we hold? Should we wait? Should we do whatever? But I think it's a really important conversation to have with the club. I think the other thing too, if you have sporting associations, if you can have those conversations 3-4 days in advance, it gives them a chance also too to make some arrangements. But there's also too, it passes part of the responsibility back to them, right? So you might say to them, hey, listen, we're half a game out of the finals. We're playing the bottom team. The fourth team's playing the top team, but we're scheduled for last Wednesday, and it might be Monday. If we don't do that, what do you want us to do? Okay, we'll just tell everyone to go ahead then, right? It's just not smart, right? So I think you'd find that you'll have an amenable association to reschedule those things based on safety. Bring them up an hour before the game. It's just impossible. It's just not going to happen. And by the way, everyone's already travelling to the site anyway. So please do it. But part of your license agreement with council is that you do have a plan. And I think that this gives you the basis to have that. But if you're going to do it, there's also too that if we can get things to be one of the things that also emergency management speak is you don't want to become you don't want to produce what we call a shelf document. So you've got it, it's a compliance document, and you basically have it. Yeah, I've got one, but it's no effect. There you go. George has sent through a link there. So if you've got the chat coming through, there's also to Warrandyte doing some research in Warrandyte and how they can understand dangers, ratings, and risks, and you can sign up and share with them there on that link.
So can I just follow up on that, just to clarify what happened? The confusion we had, so we cancelled training at the netball club.
Yeah.
But we only found out that the Manningham LGA was extreme because we had parents of kids at the schools. So we had the sort of disconnect between the parents of kids at schools who were closed versus the ones who didn't have kids at Warrandyte schools who were saying, well, actually, it's not an extreme fire danger day. Why are you cancelling? So I think what Phil's probably touching on is, I know it's not public, but is there any way that sporting clubs can get it, or how we should handle? It's normally the other way. I mean, we're normally lower risk in Manningham than the grass out further north. But it was just that disconnect between the information we were getting sort of secondhand from the schools versus what's actually been publicly based on the fire districts.
I think it's a good question, Jimmy. I reckon that for me, and I'm not
John,
answering on behalf of.
Before you complete your answer, John, can I also add to Jimmy's note there that it's a matter of compliance. What will we be expected to be compliant with?
Yep. No, it's a good point. I think one of the big issues you have is what is the correct version of the truth. That it sounded like you had a few different ones. And Georgia, I can throw to you about what would be a way that there is confusion that these guys could, find a resource to assist them.
We know that that's a that's a big conversation in Warrandyte and with the couple of schools in Manningham that things change for on our extreme days. I don't want to get this conversation off track into that conversation too far, but the publicly available information is the fire weather district information. And so what the CFA recommends to all of us and what we function on is the fire weather district level information. The CFA is also doing some research to potentially change the fire weather districts. So I can send you a link to that research if you want to sign up to learn more about it. But I think it is, I guess like that correct version of the truth is the risk that you're comfortable with. So what we operate on is the publicly available information that the CFA recommends to us. And I would recommend that as the bushfire experts, we go for what the CFA says is the best information, but schools are operating on something a bit different, which really makes things hard. I have a lot of empathy for all the families in that situation, but I guess that highlights that your level of risk is a personal decision or a decision for your organisation or club in this circumstance or for your school, and that's what you have to end up going with.
It might be indicative too, Georgia, that a number of these schools have different risk appetites. So they've made a call that's different to other schools, and I think you'll find that with with the sporting clubs as well. But I think that if you can understand what your risk appetite is, but I think that also too, if you can go to the highest level of truth, is that the CFA declare fire danger days within regions. It's all fairly well publicised. You can get a hold of that through the Vic Emergency app for starters. Go there. But I think that one of the things, and that might be indicative of different organisations having different risk appetites as well. So that'll never be consistent. All right, so emergency management really is just a plan, do, check, act cycle. So we talk about preventing, getting prepared for an emergency, responding, and recovering. Recovering is not about retrieving bodies, it's about getting things back to normal. So if we did, we've done our prevention, did our preparedness, and we see that, there's some, bad weather coming, and we've actually then had to cancel the games or the week or the training or whatever it might be. Recovery might be about informing your team members and the teams and rescheduling some things about when things are going to start back again. It can be that easy. All right, so I think there that, again, going through these things ahead of time is if you can have your clubs and your volunteers and your people on communities being able to, work together. You don't want to be making your stuff up on the spot. Sometimes you've got to improvise a little bit, but really most of the hazards you'll see would have come and been before. But if you look at it, one of the things will be that, if you do get an emergency in the Warrandyte area, for instance, the clubs and the volunteers can probably keep people home. Manningham Council have a response through the municipal emergency management arrangements. Emergency services work with those guys, and really the local community have got to keep people safe. So it really comes back to keeping the community safe. All right, so types of stuff that could happen is fires in the club kitchen, bushfires, grass fires, broken pipes, floods, storms, heat, wind, weather, medical injury, or emergency. And also too, chemical spills, chlorine. There might be some other nasties around the club itself. And power outages can cause a few dramas as well. So look, really, I think there that, again, we had our chat about getting an idea of what it is that we all do, and getting people trained, right? So if everyone can have a role, it's really good. So when we look at things like, that you do have an emergency, is really stay calm as possible. Someone's got to lead. We don't want to have a stampede. We don't want people running everywhere. And we've already got, if we've got evacuation areas and muster points and so forth, if people know where to go and what to do, is always try to get a hold of emergency services. Now, even roles there could be somebody staying on the phone, somebody being out the front of the place to direct the ambulance in, whatever it might be. Is it really, and also too, we've got to make it that if someone's going to be there, if you're going to have the bar opened a bit late, and and so forth, and something happens, whoever you hand it over to should not only know to unlock the door, but should know what to do if something goes wrong, right? And just remember that the emergency services will put out the fire. They'll take the they'll take the injured to go to medical care or whatever it might be. But just remember, your club will be there. You really need to support your team members. People will be traumatized and really vulnerable people. It might be people who can't get home, might be people that have, suffering a bit of traumatic stress, whatever it might be. Currently, we're putting together for Western Sydney International Airport a trauma plan, but I think it's a bit advanced for you guys. But it's really, the emergency just doesn't stop when the ambulance goes or the fire brigade goes out, or or whatever it might be. These things can have a bit of a tail. So again, the best things we can do is try to avoid the situation if we've got a bit of warning as to what the weather might look like. But the other one is that if it does happen, just remember people will need care, and people are different too. Like some people brush these things off without anything at all. Others will need ongoing support. So, and it really can affect the club moving forward. So really, communication. Again, share the plan, get agreement, right? And prepare the plan with your members. During, keep people safe and informed. And after, always think about how you can make things back to normal. Now, I'll keep harping back to Black Saturday. I think just where we live, a number of us know people. And if we can know that they're still getting treatment for post-traumatic stress, they'll probably never recover, right? So again, let's have a bit of a think about, from your perspective, your club members need to not have harm, right? And it's not the immediate harm, it could be ongoing harm. So as far as communication and coordination goes, we've already talked about that. I must have pushed the wrong button. All right. So look, again, timely and accurate communications, save lives. And in the case of last week, that it could be by about Sunday, you're seeing the forecast, just say, hey, team, Wednesday's looking really, interesting. The club will be reviewing, what the arrangements are. Right, the next day saying whatever else, just give them bits of information, whether it be by text, be it by email, be it whatever. Because the other thing too is that the people who maybe don't see the text or don't get the email, they may chat to each other on social media. Have a think about what your channels are. So what we do is we create pre-approved templates, but also how are you going to communicate this to people? Now, if you do it an hour before, you're going to be frantic on the phone, trying to make sure everyone's got the details. If you can drip feed it over time, you can make sure you're not always going to get everyone. But again, part of the review will be to look at your lists and just see how effective your channels are. It could be, X as they call it now, or Twitter might be preferred by some. They might prefer Messenger. They might prefer a group on Facebook, which is your club page. Could be your website, right? So, but always think about those things that, okay, we've got something that's serious. We need to tell people. How are we going to tell them, right? And what are we going to tell them? So think about it, but always have those things pre-done and pre-approved, right? So make sure that, as Stav said, that the committee has looked at it and said, yeah, we don't want to be, closing the thing down, or some of us did, some of us didn't. We really didn't know what to do. That's a pretty extreme day. So I think that if you're talking about over 100-kilometre winds, I wouldn't be going anywhere. Probably over 95 even, you're starting to get into trouble. I think, again, and there's something that Jimmy and Phil brought up, just try and verify information before sharing publicly. I can understand you were the meat and the sandwich there, but again, verify the information. You've got, members at council, you've got also Vic App, you've got CFA, you've got whoever else. And it might be that you can't verify all the information. Tell them, right? We've got varying information. We've got one end here that one mob's doing this, one mob's doing the other, but what we can tell them, the CFA, this is the version of truth, and this is what we have decided to do it. But again, probably the thing about jargon, I think it's probably not such a big deal, but really be careful of acronyms or etc. Use really plain language. That okay, Wednesday's going to be a horrendous day, and this is going to happen, and we're monitoring. We'll get back to you in 24 hours. All right, keep it really simple. More information. Dave McLean, text message number, whatever it might be. So just really just keep it dead simple. So again, make sure they're clear. I think also too, if we're talking about what has happened, is never speculate. Right? There's been an incident at the club. We've got reports that there may be somebody, that there may be medical attention required for someone. We're investigating, and we'll get back to you in 1 hour. Never say, oh, someone said it was a heart attack, someone else said it was a lightning strike, someone else said it was whatever. You're going to get, again, varying versions of the truth. But I think also too, if you get sensitive incidents, just remember that the police will be the ones that will allow us to communicate. Now, again, it's very, very similar. God hopes that you don't have a fatality, but look, there's been some really simple, serious injuries on football grounds. There's been some serious injuries, in cricket grounds. Kids have done, probably seen their basketball, netball careers done with knees, whatever else it might be. Is the police will coordinate that stuff. So just be really conscious of it. That you need to coordinate with authorities. But also to people, again, just respecting people's privacy as well. And it's a really tough line, like something's happened, there'll be a lot of people wanting information. Some people will know, some people don't. But as a club, I just think you've got to say, hey, there's been an incident. We're not in a position to be able to share Now, as soon as we can, we will, or whatever it might be, right? But also to just get one person nominated, for instance, each incident. What can actually happen is that one person gets called about an incident, and then 5 minutes later, 2 minutes later, the incident's changed, but they get the information from somewhere else, and they've got varying versions of the truth again. So make sure that you've got one person coordinating all of that. But really, again, make sure, and I think that agreement at committee level, this is what we're going to do. This is our risk appetite. This is basically what we need to do. Just make sure those plans, those little procedures, even if you check it, print off a checklist of what to do, make it there. Just also to have backup communication tools. So if Hotmail's down, use SMS. Social media might not be, you might send all of your messaging on every channel, right? So just to make sure that people get it, and your website. And look, just again, you are dealing with with people you choose to hang out with, right? They're people that you enjoy their company, or you wouldn't be there. Maybe some of them not so much. But look, just always act early if there are risks, and I think that's the best thing to do. And I think there that share alerts clearly, and again, it's not a great cost. Social media doesn't have a great cost. If you're using updating your website and somebody can do it quickly, the cost isn't great if you can internalize it, but you could probably save yourself a whole lot of problems down the track. All right, so if something does happen, make sure that you do let emergency services know. Make contain the situation. Make sure it's not going to get any worse. Contact cancel, and really just follow the instructions, and make sure people that can use the evacuations maps, and really to be on the spot to help with emergency services. But, Manningham, as a landlord, have got a duty of care as well for your clubs. So hence why they've got guys like me invested to help you make it a safer place. But really, get it also to, if you can nominate that one person for communications, I think that makes a big difference. That way you can make sure it's consistent. So again, you might give someone to say, look, I'm going to deal with family members, somebody else deals with emergency services, somebody else deals with the broader range. You have different things there. But look, really just make sure that you've got a consistent lot of messaging. And look, again, we do use the motto, and I hope we're not putting horrible thoughts in your head, but we do plan for the worst and hope for the best. And hopefully you never use it, right? Never ever use, and it's, whatever. But what we don't, and what does happen, we're not designed to do this stuff intuitively, and particularly too now, we've perhaps been through something very traumatic, that it's going to be hard to be able to pick up and intuitively work out what needs to be done. So if you can think about it and planning for the worst and hoping for the best, you do it that way, and then at least you've got a little checklist of things that you need to do. So again, just be really clear. These incidents, and again, can't stress more, can do basically pull a club apart. Managed well, if we can avoid it, a whole lot better. Managed well, where people have good communications, people are cared for. We've done everything we can. It is sometimes that the clubs can be brought closer together, and I think that again, we are planning for the worst, we're hoping for the best. But if it does happen, having a plan that can be deployed simply by whoever should be there will make a difference to the outcomes. Again, I think, if it does happen to be an event that's happened that, Phil, you wanted to...
Yeah, John, sorry, I was just going to ask about the risk matrix at the end of the form. It doesn't seem to be based on the Australian standard risk matrix. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, there's probably an international standard, which is a 5x5. we want to get something that's simple, Phil, but if you want to make it a wee bit more compliant, you could go to your 5x5 and then even add attributes that are important to your club.
Thank you.
All right. So, yeah. So look, again, don't reopen. And look, and if that's an event that, even though the facilities are fine, there might be a period of time that that needs to be shut down for. I think again, once it's safe, communicate with your members and volunteers, and complete that incident report, and check in with members and volunteers to offer support. Now, it is difficult, and some people will, carry trauma. I actually, doing the trauma stuff at the moment for Western Sydney Airport. It's different courses for different people, but I think what you've got to do is to be able to have that chat, to be able to say, hey, listen, it'd be okay to go get a wellness check. Or it could be that you've got people within the club that have got, might be a chaplain, might be a psychologist, whatever, but have a bit of a think about how you can support people after an incident. And look, it could be not necessarily connected specifically to your club. It could be a death in the family, and you've got somebody who's now a widow that's lost the love of their life. Is it have a bit of a think about how we can help that person through that trauma as well. But it's different for everyone. You've just got to offer it, but be able to just have that chat. But I think that also too, it comes back to the culture of the organisation, that if you show care when everything's good, when it's bad, it's a whole lot easier to be trusted. So it's quite a complex area, but I think just being able to have that "Are you okay?" chat is really valuable. But also too, but again, when you learn stuff, emergency plans aren't perfect. And if you're going to, you're going to learn as you go. The very best ones I've seen. I'm just at the moment auditing AusNet's emergency and disaster management plans and their, all that stuff for the minister. And their stuff was pretty ordinary about 2 years ago. But they've got a continuous improvement loop. So as they learn, they make it better and better and better. What we usually say is, look, if you find something that needs to be updated, don't update it on the spot. Keep a little bit of a log or a spreadsheet to say, here's the 5 or 6 things that we need to do. Do it annually, update it. Unless it's really materially wrong, update it, repopulate it, do what you got to do. So it might be a risk that you didn't even think of before. Just trying to think of something that's been recent. Let's call it COVID. Even though the risk of a pandemic had been around for forever, we hadn't seen anything like for 100 years. So people really didn't consider COVID to be, or a pandemic to be, something we'd see again. Sort of technology is a whole lot better than 100 years ago, or we can do this and that. We were wrong. So as you go, you're going to learn new things. You're going to come across new hazards, and you can update it. All right. So again, just work with once it gets to a certain threshold, a lot of the things that you may experience, you'll be able to deal with in that club level. It doesn't need, you still need maybe to notify the council, but it could just be we're talking about things like an injury, an ambulance, and we need to get that person seen to. Versus it could be a bushfire, you lose your club rooms, you've lost whatever. It's going to scale between all of those things. So I think there is that, sometimes you'll do it yourself, send an incident report to council. Other times, you're going to integrate with the state emergency agencies, including fire, SES, police, etc., ambulance. So building a resilient club. So again, first of all, just find out what your risks are. And I think that could be a real good, spitball conversation with your committee, or it could be, let's get a subgroup, let's get whatever else. What are the sort of things that we know? You may have some emergency services folks as members, or people that are across this sort of thing, and get them involved. Maybe do a bit of a workshop. Make sure your contact lists are up to date. I think sometimes people lose confidence in their contact list because they don't test them. So it might be even worth sending out an email to say, so see which ones basically bounce, see which ones get someone to have a look at your current membership base, and there could be people on there that haven't been at the club for some years. So just keep those things up to date. Just review your plans, update them. And also two contexts there. Review what's in them and the content, but make sure people are familiar, and really make sure everyone's got a particular role, because groupthink in an emergency really goes badly, right? So we all go there, and there's whoever talks the most will get the gig. Let's have a think about the sort of things that you need to do during emergency, and usually it's communication, people management, it's whatever else we need to do. So just have a think about that. All right. So I think make it part of your club. If we say culture, I don't know if it's culture, but I think Stav, you hit on the nail on the head. Is it really not having a determined idea? But I think that if what we do under certain situations, but I think though that if you look at discussing the risks and the plans at committee meetings and the season launches, it's going to really come back to your culture as well, in that, okay, what's your level of risk and level of care that you want to show for one another? And then sometimes by showing care, at least we're having that conversation where the people can understand where they're at. Make it sure the emergency plan somewhere that you can find it and people know where to do it. But also too, if you can get people to be involved in a drill or a scenario exercise, you might want to put on a sausage sizzle or whatever. Hey, this could be a bit of fun. But also to share preparedness posts about on your website, on your social media, whatever else it might be, to say, hey, this is what we're doing in the case of. So really, I'm just looking at the time. We'll probably had the conversation, Claire.
Yeah, John, I was just going to suggest perhaps if you can go through slide, I think it's 26, 27 and 28 about identifying and sourcing risk info. And then maybe if we've got time, we can end on the discussion. And maybe the fire preparedness stuff we can include in the slides when we send those out, and that can also be kept possibly to talk about at the next session.
Yeah, sure.
Is that all right? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. But look, identifying risks, all right? So in natural, human, man-made or technological, the advent of cyber risks are very real. Cyber crime is very real. It could be stealing personal data, which would be a problem. Or also too, it could be people acting nefariously on your club, with your club members on social media. There's a whole lot of stuff in there to unpack. If you can have a look there, go to the Vic Emergency Map, prepare and get ready, and choose from the different layers. And you can add your club into the address to see what the relevant results are. So that'll actually give you a bit of an idea of the things that you need to look at that are relevant to your club. The Legends at Manningham Council and State Emergency Service Vic shows the flood information from Manningham. And actually, you've got the Yarra, but you've also got right through Ruffy Park, and that whole area there is quite a floodplain from my recollection back in my days working in the area. And bushfire plans is really have a look at where that nearest neighbourhood safer place is, and your bushfire last place of resource, particularly if you are in Warrandyte. I think it's amplified. But good planning, just make sure you've got good information. As Phil and Jimmy spoke about, conflicting information just makes it really tough to make decisions. All right, so have a look for your Vic app on the day. Bureau of Meteorology. I do hope that they've managed to fix it up, their app. But look, storm and weather warnings, and often those things will just go straight onto the Vic Emergency Map app anyway. Manningham Council offers alerts and emails, silly closures or local hazards. But I think just always monitor these systems. And look, I think with iPhones and those things, it's a lot easier nowadays to keep informed. Okay, now we have gone through the template. What we might do is just stop there and just have a bit of a discussion before we close up. But really, if we go through it, it was to explain the template now. But I just thought really need to have a bit of a chat about what it is and why we're here. So I changed the batting order a little bit, which I'm good at, aren't I, Claire? But yeah, so anyway, is it anyone got any questions? Because look at,
I
Georgia.
guess I was going to ask one question. It's Murray Sadler. The outcome of all of this, obviously there's some really good points in here. Is there an expectation from council that clubs are going to submit these plans back to council so you've got a record, or is it really a flow down to make sure the clubs are suitably equipped to be able to handle a range of emergencies?
Great question, Murray. So as part of the license agreement, it is in there that clubs do have an emergency plan. However, earlier this year, we got quite a lot of feedback we were having conversations with a number of clubs that sort of maybe made us realise that clubs may not actually have plans or need, I guess, some more opportunities to develop the skills and knowledge to be able to create a plan that works for their club. So that's the reason, firstly, I guess, for this webinar tonight. The template that we have provided, we have developed from scratch with John and his team at Resilient Services, and that template is to hopefully, I guess, encourage and act as a guide for our clubs in Manningham to bring all of this information together in one spot to sort of start the development of a plan. But currently, no, we are not expecting you to submit anything back to council to check. That is not a requirement that we have. Yes, and then so this is the initial session. We are going to have another session in a couple of weeks where if you do have a plan, you can bring that along and we can discuss that with John, Georgia, and yeah. So does that sort of answer your question?
No, that's fine. I just wondered what the expectation of council was. So that's fine. We've got what I think is a pretty comprehensive plan, but certainly there are elements we've talked about tonight that it doesn't really go into some of the communications and things, but certainly from operating the flying club risk assessment and mitigation, it's pretty strong. So we'll bring that along and work out what we can add to it to improve it.
Yeah, and we acknowledge that this space is going to be different for each club. Some clubs might be well advanced in this and have a lot of experience, and they might have volunteers that have worked in this space or have experience with developing plans before. So, for them, it's easy, but for other clubs, they might lack the resources. So we're just looking at trying to provide more support in this space. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Sure.
Yes. Besides the emergency management plan thing that you had sent all package, there were quite a few slides that, John, you just used in the last presentation, and there were quite some good, interesting notes in them. Could we have an access to these slides that you used?
Yes. I will probably tomorrow, or if not tomorrow, Friday, I'll send through the template again to everyone, and I'll also have the slides attached. And there will also be a separate document again that's got a list of website links, resources, just all of the links that we couldn't fit onto the presentation that will be useful for you to be aware of. So you'll get sent that for sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Look at that. Anyone else got any other questions or feedback?
I might just jump in here. Sorry, go, Phil.
Sorry, are you related to Max?
No, I'm distantly, Phil. So if you're a Collingwood supporter, sorry, Melbourne supporter, sorry to disappoint you. Peter?
Yeah, Peter O'Reilly, Warrandyte Footy Club. Firstly, John, Claire, yeah, thanks very much for putting all this together and bringing it all to our attention and highlighting something that probably required and necessary. I guess it was touched on earlier with Phil and that in the sense that what is the benchmark for us to make a call? And I'm probably getting a little bit frustrated in the sense that there needs to be some guidance. If you can talk about CFA, you can talk about emergency VIC, you can talk about this. We need to set a guideline on what we're following and what we're going to make the calls on, right? I'm more than happy to put together the policy and procedure and all that sort of thing, but the incidents with the schools the other day, that was in complete contrast to other information that was there, that we leave ourselves vulnerable. That if we set a benchmark and say, this is what we follow and this is what the policies will be, it's going to make it a lot clearer and easier for everyone else to follow. Is it not?
I think so, but again, it's going to be contextual. But I think that for me, it might be a good thing for session 2, is I can probably share the things that I would think would be wise for you to think about. How's that sound?
Yeah, but
because I know that
ratings vary between different organisations.
Correct, and the issue is going to be, Peter, is that the risk appetite and the context of these decisions are going to be different depending on where you are and when you operate. So, for instance, you know that you guys have got a flood issue, and you've also got you've also got 2 fire issues. You've also got a number of storm issues too that could affect you, whereas other people may not be as vulnerable. So I think that it's a little bit like some schools that decided to close down for the day and others didn't. It's really probably based on their own risk appetite and the context of where they are.
Yeah.
But I'd certainly be happy to share with you the sort of things that I'd be concerned about if I were you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Peter. John, just to put some more context to what Peter and I have been talking about, and Jimmy as well, is that in February, I think it was, this year, there was a high fire danger rating. There was an event at the Warrandyte Sporting Club rooms. The RDCA had cancelled all cricket for the day. We implemented the use of the 5x5 risk matrix and determined, being a neighbourhood safer place, it was okay for the event to go together. But the Warrandyte Diary took a much higher moral position on how we should have acted. And I guess all of that's very concerning to us all, how we would be judged should we end up in the coroner's court at some day and time.
Yeah, I think, look, and probably, and it sounds like there's a few layers there to work through, Phil, that you could probably, that I don't really understand what the situation was. But I think the thing is, if you can start sharing what that decision-making looks like, what we call through peacetime, to get the feedback to say, this is what we think, how would that look to you guys? And I think if you've got a stakeholder like that, that's going to cause you some how would you say, some friction, that you may be able to share that through these times, and have that conversation rather than when the heat's on, when really risk aversity becomes it becomes right to the top of the list. So I think the more that we can put that thinking and sharing that information of decision making when you're not in the heat of battle, I think is better.
Are you suggesting we're able to draw on your professional support via the council?
I think, look, I'd reckon that council would be up for a discussion that wouldn't be 2 or 3 days out from the event or the day before, because it's you can imagine they've got a million things going on and their risk aversity would be really low. But I actually do think that, if you can go back to council, and while there wasn't an expectation that you'd put these things in, as you're saying, look, here's a couple of situations. We think we can manage this. How does that fit with your risk appetite or with the overall municipal emergency plan and directions you'll give?
Yeah,
and I think you probably get a good answer.
I really meant in helping setting the baseline rather than real-time decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's bang on, Phil. Yeah, Sharon?
Yes. No, I don't have any questions.
Oh, okay, your hand's still up, so that's okay.
No, the hand's from the previous time.
Oh, okay, all right, no worries.
Sorry.
No, good to talk to you again.
Thank you very much.
I might hand back to Claire.
Sure.
Yeah, so, well, firstly, thank you all for attending tonight. I hope you found it valuable. So we've mentioned a couple of times that we're going to do, we'll hold a part 2 emergency preparedness session. So this next session is scheduled with John and Georgia as well, in person at Timber Reserve in a couple of weeks' time on the 12th of November. This session, we're looking to, firstly, we're hosting it at a venue to do a site walkthrough and have some discussions around emergencies and emergency preparedness at an actual club. There's opportunity for you to come and ask questions in relation to emergency preparedness at your club. We want to try and get a better understanding of maybe what support or where we can better support our clubs in this space moving forward. And yeah, if you have the opportunity to go back to your club, your committee between now and the 12th, and whether it's the template or you've already got a plan, please bring those along with you, as it's an opportunity for you to have some discussions with directly with our emergency management team, with Georgia being there and John being there as well with his expertise. There's a couple of things that had popped up in the chat tonight that I've noted down for maybe a bit of follow-up, particularly with you, Phil, Jimmy and Peter, with the situation that you've just recently experienced. And as I mentioned, I will send through all of the slides and the template again and some other information too. If you do have any questions that you still want answered after tonight, please feel free to send them through to me, and I will work with John and Georgia in getting those answered for you. But that's it. Otherwise, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Claire. Thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Have a good night.
Thanks all. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.